how to use the classes for Bootstrap forms. How to use the classes for the forms. What are the various classes for working with the forms? So technically, by default, some controls are provided for displaying forms. We need to understand what are those controls and how to use them. So forms means no need to explain. You know, form have various form controls, text box, radios, check boxes and all. Already we know how to write them. That means how we can present them, right? How do we work with them? So how to deal with them, we already learned, right? Now important is some more additional things to display the forms in a correct way. We will see them, how to design and configure them. Let's take a look. So here we are creating a new file. So forms.html. Okay. And we will link relation style sheet href is equal to node modules. So in the node modules, we have Bootstrap in that dist and CSS bootstrap.css. Okay, fine. Now in the body, because for forms we don't need much jQuery as of now. What are the various classes available? Let's see. Div, we have a class container. Okay, what are the options for the forms? How do we present the forms and interact with them? Let's see. Generally, in order to display the forms and handle the forms, so we have some classes. Some contrast is there because people who worked with early versions of Bootstrap, so they know about some points related to forms. Now what happened is those options are gone now. That means currently we are not having some of the form related classes which we have in old versions. In the new versions, so little bit different. So we need to understand how to use them and how to configure them, right? Let's see how we can manage that. So generally, while working with the forms, one by one, we will see how to handle them. First option, so how to display form controls. How we can display the form controls and how we can use form controls. So how to work with the form controls. So generally form controls means we have input, we have select, we have text area, am I right? These are all the form controls. We can put form controls by using them. And we can display, so the class used for form controls. For form controls is, so we have the class as form control, that is the class. So we have the class name as dot form hyphen control, that is the class name. If you are displaying any controls which is related to input or select or text area, then we can define this form control class, that is form control class, right? Another important is when you are displaying input element, so like if it is input element, input as file, if you are using input as file, input as radio, input as checkbox, for that we have others, we will see that first. So this is for displaying controls. And another option is when we are displaying the controls, how we can keep them all together, right? Grouping controls can be done, grouping controls. So for that we have the class, so the class form group dot form group is used to group the form controls in order to set margin and padding between groups. So what are the groups and how to define the groups? Let's see one point here. So form group and form control, these are the two first basic points. Let's see. We are designing a simple heading, say, or first we will keep a heading, form. In that we have a heading, so register user. Now in this we have a div. This div contains a label. In the label I will say username. Under that another div, it will have a text box. Input type is equal to text. Okay. Similarly, this is one group actually. This is one group. Another div and a label, and this is some password. A div, input type is equal to password. Okay. Then div, a label. This is your city, and div and select, and here we are defining an option. So that is some Delhi, some Hyderabad, like this. So another option Hyderabad, like this. Okay, fine. Now when you look at this, generally what happens is, when you look at this, the design is ordinary. We don't have any much Bootstrap classes here. And of course at the last I will keep another div. This is button. So suppose register button. Button classes we already know. We can use btn primary, like this. Now that is actually the button available there. What main point here is, actually there is no gap between these controls. There is no gap between these groups, username and all. Generally for form, we can apply style, and in the style, we have a form width as some 300 pixel and padding as some 20 pixel and margin as auto and border as 2 pixel solid and dark cyan and box shadow is 2 pixel 2 pixel 4 pixel and dark cyan, and you can see actually a form looks like this. We have a form like this. We have a form like this. We can add the body here. Suppose body, so body, we have background color light, light green something, body background color light green like this. Later we will see some effects also. Here I say opacity as 0.4, opacity for the form transparency will change. You can keep a picture here. Actually, background, body background, we can put a background image, background image, right? Background image, you can put an URL dot images slash some logo dot png. We can put background image. So we can put some image like suppose I defined as some speakers. We have some JBL or shoe dot jpg. Already its appearances and everything we can change. You can see that is, and background repeat, background hyphen repeat. So repeat, so no repeat, and background position. We know all this. We discussed background hyphen position. Background position we can keep as center. Background position center. Okay, will be like this. And transparency I will increase to 9. That means the form has more transparency like this. We can keep the forms over there. I can put some background color for this form. Background color for this as suppose light gray. So the background color light gray, it will be like this. Or you can put light white, light yellow. Okay, then it will keep little bit like this. Transparency you can increase. Transparency, suppose opacity 0.6. You see the transparency will be increased like this, or 0.7. So we can increase or decrease that like this. And of course, so we can put background attachment. Attachment as fixed. Background attachment will be fixed. And of course, we can keep this form as a margin top as suppose 50 pixel. So it will keep like this. Later, some more options we will add into it. Right? For example, here the first important is to make it clear to understand about the form. Now there is no gap between the items. We don't have gap between these groups. Actually, there is no gap between groups. Let's see how we can put the gap. So to define the gap, what we need to do actually is first for these categories. That means this is for username. This is for password. For them, what we do is we use a class called form group. Form group, that is a Bootstrap class. And every category password, we will put a class called form group. Okay. And for this, we will put a class form group. Okay. And here we will put a class form group. Form group. And I will give button as btn block. And you can see now there will be a clean separation between them. You can see a clean separation between them. Username separate category, password separate category, and city separate category. Vertically, some space is adjusted between them. So we are adjusting the space between them. The space between them. Okay. Now the controls, text boxes, drop downs, for them we can use form control. The class form control. That means for text box we are using a class called form control. Form control. Okay. And password, a class form control. Okay. And drop down, a class form control. Form control. So you can see form control will change their appearance. Now you see they have a rounded rectangle. Rounded rectangle, and when I click inside it, it will have a focus for the control. And it is a block style. Block style means one per line. Right? How to display side by side and all, we will see later how we can define that. Now you can see this is the block style. And a drop down also, it looks better in appearance. So this is form control and form groups. How we can define form control and form group. What are the options for form control and form groups? Now, sometimes, remember, form control is not suitable for everyone. So if you have to define some radius and checkbox, for that we need to use other options. They will not suit with form control here. Text box, passwords, drop downs, all these are form controls. Others we will see here. And when you are defining the form control, usually what you can do is, so the size for form can be adjusted by using so form control LG and form control SM. These are the classes. We have form control LG, this is large, and form control SM, that is small. So large and small size we can define there. A slight change will be there. For example, this is form control. So we have LG, that is for large. And I refresh here. You can see its size little bit increase. And if I define control SM, that means form will be small, little smaller. You can see it is smaller. Now you give both options. That means form control and form control SM. Then it will have a block style appearance and small. And you can see block style and small. You can observe the difference that the above text boxes are large and drop down is small. So suppose for password, form control, and you say form control SM, that means it will be small, and the password box also will reduce to small, little bit size adjust. Height, you can see the difference, the username box and the password. So we have to define form control and form control sm. It will keep that shorter size for the form controls. We can define a shorter size for the form. Small and large, you can define those options. Now, when we are using input, for example, I'm adding some options. Here above the button, another div. This is another category, class form group. In this, we have a label. This label is, we are defining the size for this label. So what is the size defining for this label? The size defining for this label, label size we will see later. First write the name. This is for upload photo. Okay, then keep a div and a class as what form. This is not form, so inside it we will keep input type is equal to file. Input type equal to file. Then you can see input type equal to file. It will get like this. A file upload will come. And I will keep here the class as form control. Form control. And for files, we have a control special option called file. Form control, only the appearance will be changed like this. But the form control file appearance will not have same effect everywhere. It will change according to our device, according to our browser. Because if I open the same on browser like Edge, you see, I open the same on browser like Edge. On browser like Edge, I am opening the same. The upload control, it is different. You see, it gets a browse button. It gets a browse button. But in Chrome, it comes with a choose file button. Choose file button. Those will change according to the behavior. They will change according to the browser behavior. They will change. But it is very important whenever you are form controls like files and all, you can create file. So that means this file. You can define that. That means here, if you are using the control type, the control type file can be defined with class, defined with class. The class is form control file. So you can simply say the input type file, right? The input type file. The input type file can be defined with the class this. Not only that, the type range can be defined. So with class can be defined with it with control range. We will have a range. We can use a form control range, input type range. So we can use input type range. Suppose you want to define range, then you have to use the class like this. One more option I will give. Remember, one problem is they will change according to browser. All browsers will not have same appearance. That is browser compatibility. This is form group and label. and I say price range, and here we have a div input type is equal to range, and for this usually you can see generally on this browser. So what is that browser? This is uh, this is the browser. This browser is Chrome. On Chrome browser, range will come with a slider, and for that what we can do is we can apply the class as a form control range. We can use form control range. Usually form control range will give the appearance like this, means the width will be adjusted and a little bit gray colors will be added into this. That's it, some change. But see, on edge browser, refresh edge browser, you can see its appearance is different. On edge browser you can observe the range appearance is different. On Chrome its appearance is different. This will change. But what are the classes we have to use? So the class margin as auto, margin how much I have configured. So that is control range. If you are defining range, how we can configure. Okay, next important is when you are dealing with checkboxes and radio buttons. When you are dealing with checkboxes and radio buttons, usually for checkboxes and radio buttons we can use as a form check input. That is for checkboxes and radio buttons we can define them. So that means a new option is available for radios and checkboxes, but they don't have much difference in appearance. So they have the same type of appearance, little bit change in the effects when we are applying with disabled or enabled like options. So they will have a little bit different appearance. Other than that, no change in that, everything will be same, right? How to deal with radios and checkboxes we will see in a separate point, but these are general input related options. So what are the classes available here? Form control, form control large, form control small, and form control file, form control range. And how we can group the controls? We can do that by using form group. Okay, let's see another important option. That means how we can use radios and checkboxes. How we can deal with radios and checkboxes? How do we work with radios and checkboxes? Actually, in order to work with radios and checkboxes, we have separate classes for them. Generally, for radios and checkboxes, what we do is we can usually define a simple class. So the classes used for radios and checkboxes are, we have some important classes. One is form check. Form check is one class, and we have form check input, that is another class. Form check input is another class, and form check label is another class. For radios and checkboxes, for both of them we use these classes: form check input, and form check label. And we can also use as a form check inline form check inline. So inline is used for displaying side by side. That is how we have to define. Entire form also can be side by side. I will tell you that part later, how to define it. Okay. Initially, these are for checkboxes and radios because form means only these we have regularly. And how we can display checkboxes and radio. Suppose above this, I will add another div, and this div will have a class form group. So form group, and here in the form group, I am defining the checkboxes. How we can define the checkboxes and radios? Usually, suppose if I want to put the checkboxes or radios, suppose we'll give gender. So we will give so another label div, or say first label. This label is defining as gender. Choose gender. Under that, we need to keep some checkboxes or radio buttons. For radio buttons and checkboxes, usually we use a class called, so this is, we use a class called form check. We use a class called form check. Okay. In this, we will have, suppose radio button input type is equal to radio, and this is the radio button. I want to display the radio button. For this, what we do is, this is form check, and in the form check for this radio button, so what we do is we put a class called form check input. We give form check input, and of course you know that radio button should have a name, gender. That name I have given. Okay. Similarly, so input type is equal to another radio, and class as form check input. Okay, and the name is gender. Okay, that's also fine, but it needs a label now. Radio buttons needs a label beside them. Radio button needs a label beside them. That means we will use here, we will use a label. We will use a label, and for this label, this is male. Another label, this is female. Now, usually this label will have a class called label. This is also a class form check label. Form check label. So for labels, we use form check label. For controls, we use form check input. Form check input. I will save this. Labels and all these options. Usually what should happen is every element should be kept in a separate div actually. That means every control. We kept all of them in one check only. This is form check. This is for inline. That means it will keep side by side, male and female. In that case, this label, so we need to keep this label separate. So I removed it. Usually we have this side by side. And usually for that, we need to keep label in a separate div, to keep label in a separate div where we have label contains, so choose gender, because all these are separate, right? That's how we need to configure. That means every radio or checkbox, what we have to do, every radio or checkbox we need to keep in form check. And radios or checkboxes are defined with form check input. Their text is displayed by using form check label. We have to use this for all of them. If you want, by default they will come one below another. If you want side by side, then you have to keep form check inline, to keep side by side. That's how we need to define the options and configure the options, right? So this is for configuring the radio or for checkboxes. I will give you one more point so that you will understand. I will give one more. See, I'm using a div. This is class form group. Okay. In this, we will put a div. In that label, we will keep this as select hobbies. Okay. And after that, another div. Now here I need checkbox. Then class. What is that? Form check. Okay. Another checkbox. Then another div. Another class. So we have form. So I have another div. These are enough. Any number we can create. Okay. Every checkbox will have a two checkbox. Okay. For checkbox, we will give class form check input. That is the class. And beside that, check input. Then label. And here we have music, something like this. And I given, so here as form check. You can see the checkboxes will come, the checkboxes will come one below another. We need to keep them side by side. Then what we can do in order to keep side by side, form to define as check inline. Okay. And form check inline. Them inline means side by side. They will place the content side by side. I can choose in this way any one of these two radios, sliders, and all this. So as I already told you, according to the browsers, their appearances will be little bit different. These are the checkboxes and radio. Appearances will be different, but layout will not change. Layout will be always same. Forms can be made in several styles. Actually, can be made in several styles. Usually, when we are designing the forms, form can have horizontal, vertical. That means we can use form grids, form rows, right? Form can be displayed inline, side by side. We can keep the contents, right? For that, we need to understand how we can create the forms and how do we can configure the forms. What are the attributes for the forms? Usually, what happens is if you want forms side by side, let's see one simple example how we can keep side by side. Actually, to keep side by side, we need to design a grid-like appearance. Many times we need side by side forms also. Why? Because generally when we are defining why we need side by side, because they need to allow us to keep the contents in one line like toolbars and all. Then how we can manage them? Let's see how we can manage them. For that we need to use some options like grid style you want. That means then let's go and design another one. What I will do here, so this is okay, this is one form. I will not disturb that. I will copy and I will keep this as an example. Up to this, that is what we have to define. This is an example for all of that. Example for all of that, right? So form check input, form check label, form check inline, and form group, form controls, LGSM, file range, how to present them. Now the point is how we can keep side by side. Horizontally how we can manage. Let's see. I am creating a new file here, form inline .html. Okay, so let's link the bootstrap in the head section. So link relation is equal to style sheet, href is equal to node modules, bootstrap is bootstrap.css. Okay, and here we have a div body and div class as container, and here we will keep a form, yeah, and we will keep the style here. So form for form, so height I will define as some 100 pixel, border as 2 pixel, solid and dark cyan. Okay, and this is having form. Okay, so let's keep a margin as 20 pixel. So yeah, and margin top as some 50 pixel, margin as auto, I will give auto. Okay, and we have so box shadow, let's keep that 2 pixel, 3 pixel, 4 pixel and dark cyan. Okay, this is having padding as 20 pixel. Okay, that is the form appearance we are having. This time the form is in this way. Now we need to keep some border radius as some 10 pixel. Okay, it will keep in this way, rounded. In this we are adding, in the form we are adding some content. So that means arranged in a proper way for the form. Then there are so many options to handle. Actually, what we do is in the form we will put a div. This div will have a class called form row. So we have a form row class is there. This form row is used to arrange the content side by side in one row. And in one row, we have to design a div. This div will have a class called col. That is one column. Okay. Now in this column, we will use input type is equal to text and class as form control. Form control. That is the class. And a placeholder. So I said user name. That is one. No labels, nothing. So I will design another div. This will have a class, another column. This is another column. And we have input type is equal to password and class is equal to form control and we have placeholder as password. Okay, that is another column. So let's add another column. So we have div class. This is also column, and we have input type is equal to this is button. Directly we keep a button and say login, and we will have the class as btn and btn primary like this. This is the appearance. Okay, this is row, form row. Form row is a collection of columns. So these three columns are defined in that. That means now the form contains information like this. It contains information like this. That means we are keeping the contents like this. So we can use a lot of attributes for that actually. For row, we can use the options like justify content between. It will justify the contents in between. So that requires some more controls inside it. We have options like align centers. That means align items to center. These all I will tell you how we can use. That also keeps the center. But currently, those requires some more options to design inside them. That we will see later. That will keep the contents aligned to center. Right? Currently, for row combination, so we need to use the options like column 1, column 2, column 3. You can use predefined columns. How many are present? Usually columns are present 12 columns will be there. That already I explained. There will be 12 columns. If there are 12 columns, then you can define a different column number to adjust the width and height for them. Actually, width can be adjusted. So according to the columns we have defined. That means usually what happens is, this is column. Suppose I defined up to this is col hyphen. I defined as suppose 12. Col hyphen 12 for that particular button. That means actually its appearance will be at 12 columns. That means others will be fitted into that. So col, I told you already that we can use different numbers for the columns. Right? So based on that, the width will be adjusted. For every column you have to define. That means button. So how much it should occupy. Button column. It should occupy how much. You can adjust that. Button column should occupy some two. Then it will adjust like this. That means 2 columns button. Rest of the columns others. That means total 12. That means now what we have to do here. First column 4 hyphen 4 and second column hyphen 4 and third column. So here I defined hyphen 4. So like this I given the width for all of them. and you can see they will fit like this. That is the default. I'm adjusting. This should be only 2 columns. They will occupy 4 4. Then it will adjust a little bit. Others also I need to adjust. I will remove them. So I will remove them. They will be by default, and I will change this to 4. You can adjust them like this. So btn, if it is using btn block, that means the block will fit into it actually. So columns can be different size, so that you can adjust the columns with different size. For handling different size of columns, I will give another example. This is a general thing. That means how we can keep everything in a row. For that we have form row. So another example is horizontal forms. So we have to use the class form row. By using form row, we can keep everything horizontally. So this is an example for that horizontal, how we can keep the forms horizontal. We can keep with the different width and height sizes, adjusting them. We can even keep like a toolbar. That's what we will see, how to display like a toolbar. We also have form inline like options, which are used to keep all the groups side by side. Some more basic options are there for forms that we will see in tomorrow's session. So tomorrow we will finish working with the form related options. They are very small. Some more additional things are there, we will discuss. And after forms, 5 6 more templates are there in Bootstrap. If we can finish them, then we can go into JavaScript concept. So in mostly in 2 3 more sessions, we will finish all the Bootstrap. Then we will go into JavaScript. With JavaScript Bootstrap, we can do more better interactions. JavaScript will start in 3 4 sessions. So once we finish this Bootstrap, right, tomorrow we'll continue with this and other options also. Okay, you are practicing all these, right? So if you have any doubts, you can ping me with your doubts.